And good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are in this good old United States of America. And for some of our people that are in foreign countries that are tuning into us this morning, I have to say, I really appreciate being here. I'm always so grateful every morning that I wake up. And I hope that in some way I can share that enthusiasm with you. Okay. I am Dr. Danita Applewhite, and I am the Ask Dr. Applewhite program, and I'm here today to discuss a couple of things with you. Okay. First off, I would love to know how you feel. So if you feel comfortable, go ahead and go into the chat line and tell me how you feel. If you have any questions, you can put them through on your chat, and uh, and we'll try to our best to address them. It's so funny. This morning, I was thinking about how I wanted to introduce and all the procedures that you go through. I mean, I'm a retired professor, and for years, you have a curriculum and a format that you use to go into your classroom. And pretty much this podcast has become my classroom. But I don't know. I just couldn't get into the structure of things. I just want to talk to you. And I want our guest today. We have one very, very special guest, Colonel Wanda Wright, that's joining us today. And we have Dr. Jane Garcia, who'll be coming on with some news about our veterans feature. And and we have Lori Elward, our co-producer, who's going to come on and talk about the differently abled artists and musicians and how they're going to help us to heal through some of the things that we're talking about, and Morgan Goloff, who puts together some of the questions that some of you asked. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, welcome, and I do want to give credit to Tom Baker and Doug Reynolds, who unfortunately have passed on. They were a major part in putting together the differently abled network meetings. And that's what you're into this morning. This is a differently abled network meeting. And I'm having an echo here, and I don't know why I'm having such a big echo. Is it bothering anyone else? Okay. Maybe you can mute your phone, and then we won't have such an echo going on. Okay.
Should be solved now.
We'll try. All right. Okay. So, okay. So we're going to go to the next slide now.
Yep.
And I want to tell you a little bit about the differently abled network. Okay. So the next slide. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna move on. I don't know what happened to Lori. She was moving the slideshow for us, and somehow or another we got a little mixed up there on the slides. So that's okay. Let me tell you about the differently abled network. We started about 2017 with a focus group to find out whether or not there was anybody that was even going to be interested in what I was talking about. And so what was I talking about? I was talking about how through the years, when students or employees get into trouble, what do they do to get out of trouble? What kind of trouble am I talking about? Well, on our way to exams, um, on our way to job interviews, they get stuck. Transportation doesn't work, childcare doesn't show up. Um, if they get a job, sometimes the employer wants them to have a uniform. And so if you've already been unemployed for a while and you don't have a support system, those things are pretty hard to come by. So the differently abled network, the members get together and they find the funds to help that person get to that job interview or to that exam. That's so important that if they don't get there, it will change the trajectory of their life. And we don't want that to happen, especially for my fellow veterans. Because if anyone has been trying, as we all sign that blank check and say we're going to serve our country, when you come back and you're a civilian again, you definitely want things to work. And when they don't work, it's extremely frustrating. And so the differently abled network members really try to make that happen. Well, a lot of people ask me many times, why are you changing the name disabled to differently abled? I'm not. I'm really not. I'm changing the perception That's what I did. I changed my perception, and I'm a differently abled person, recognizing my disability. As a matter of fact, I'm labeled as 100% permanently disabled, catastrophically disabled by the VA. But I have not bought into the label of defining myself as that. So that's what I try to teach people, is not to define yourself from that. And how do you become productive and successful as someone labeled as disabled? You can, of course you can. When you change your own perception, and then when you change your perception, you change your perception of how others interact with you. And so that's what I've tried to do is to help people. Let me give you an example. There was a young man once who was asked in one of our conferences, "What do you do?" And his answer was, "I'm disabled." And the first thing that hit me was, when did disabled become an occupation? Okay, it's not an occupation. There's many things that this young man was doing. He was even volunteering for the State Independent Living Council. Why not talk about that instead of the fact that you're disabled first? So those are the kinds of things that we try to change in the perception. Next slide. White Apple, Ask Dr. Applewhite sponsors the White Apple Institute Network, and I've been really happy to be part of that. And as I told you, I'm Dr. Apple. A lot of people call me Dr. Apple. And I'm a U.S. Army Quartermaster School. That's where I went to did my training and my active duty. And I became an instructor, which changed my whole life. As a matter of fact, the military, if you will, was the guide for me to go into this field of rehabilitation. And so I really love what I do. Obviously, I'm retired twice and I'm still doing it, right? And I served on a state independent council, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on what I did, because you can go into the website at whiteappleinstitute.org and you can see everything about my bio. I want to move on here because I really want to get to our exciting guest today, okay? And this is going to be exciting. You can move on from that slide next. Next. This is our Colonel Wanda Wright. And now, Colonel Wanda Wright is not an expert on suicide, which is our question of the month. It's about suicide. I'm not an expert on suicide. But in our travels, especially with her working in a college environment and working with the military, in some ways she has been exposed to what suicidal thoughts are, and we're going to talk about that and what her exposure has been, even with her staff. But I wanted to do something real special with I said doctor because she's going to be a Dr. Wanda Wright pretty soon. Colonel Wright has been an inspiration to me and to many others. When I told people that she was going to be on our video podcast today, so many people were like, "Oh my God, I really want to tune in. I want to find out more about her." Dr. Wanda Wright, Colonel Wanda Wright, welcome to Ask Dr. APPLEwhite Program and meeting our differently abled network members. Good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. The time goes by quick, doesn't it?
The time goes by, but believe it or not, I fit all of this in within an hour.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Because I mean, one of the things that we really try to do, Colonel Wright, is to encourage people to make donations so that we can start growing and do this video podcast more often, more frequently through the month, and also for a longer period of time as needed. So tell us a little bit about you. Where were you born?
Well, I am a military brat. I was a dependent for Army Colonel, I guess around almost 20 something years. Yeah, and so we moved, I think we counted 11 times over that time period. Then I made my way to the Air Force Academy to get my commission as an officer. Graduated there in 1985, went on to do a 5-year active duty tour And then I switched over to the National Guard and became active guard for 21 more years. My whole career is
Wow.
about 26 years. And then when I completed that, we all go into transition. And I couldn't find a job because I came out right around the mortgage debacle in 2010 and 11, and no one was hiring. So I made sort of a detour into education and was a vice principal for a Montessori charter school for 4 years.
Yes, I saw
Yeah.
that in your background. Yes.
Yeah. And then I thought, well, I don't know that this is really what I want to do, elementary school. And at the same time, the governor's office had a vacancy in the Department of Veterans Services for Arizona. And one of my mentors called me and said, you need to apply for this position. And so I was chosen, and I was the director for the Arizona Department of Veterans Services for 8 years.
Yes, you were.
Right, dealing with kind of what you're talking about, Dr. Applewhite. We were doing everything we could to prevent suicide across Arizona and really even across the nation as we did research and tried to figure out where the risk was, right? Where are people more at risk? And so that was really fascinating. And then in 2023, the new governor came and she got her own staff and everything. And so I moved on to Arizona State University, where I've been for a couple years now. And, really able to still have my passion about veterans, but now they're students instead of in the community. And
yes,
really support them in their academic work and also involving them in the community so they understand where they can parachute into once they graduate.
Oh, where they can parachute into. Is that what you said?
Right. That's right.
That's a nice word to use. I like that.
Right. So we have all these communities out there, Posts, American Legion, DAV, VFW. We have a lot of veteran service organizations out there that can support our veterans, and they don't really know about them when they're going to school. All they're really worried about is getting school done. And so our job, I think, in my office is to really try to help them understand that this isn't your life forever. In 2 to 4 years, you're going to be out and you're going to be needing to figure out where you're going to work and who's going to be your social community. And so we really help them with that kind of thing.
Yes. Now tell me something. When you're doing all of this, I mean, this is a tremendous amount of work that you've done in your life. And plus, of course, you accomplished a master's degree in all of this, and you have children.
Yes.
Tell us about your family life. I've met your husband and your daughter, I believe.
Yeah. So I will tell you, it all has to do with my husband. Right. He recognized the person that I was, that I'm a hard charger, hard worker, and that my place is really outside in the community trying to get stuff done. And so he was super helpful from birth. Even when I had my first child, he stayed at home for 4 months so that my son could have 4 months at home with a parent. I took off like 6 weeks, and then he took off 4 months. When my second child was born, my daughter, he stayed home for 2 months. We had kind of a better system by then. And we were able to manage that. We had care on base because I was living at Davis-Monthan at the time, or living near Davis-Monthan at the time. And so, throughout, we've been married almost 30 years. And we've been really a good team in our ability to kind of focus on what we do best and then come together and make decisions. And I think, unlike many marriages, honestly, that we have such a great admiration for one another.
Yeah.
And that we really sync well together in order to make this family happen.
It's so important, isn't it? So important to find the friend.
Yes,
so many
that's really
times.
What it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's my best friend. And so for us to bring up this family, and then for us to each have good careers in our life so that we can retire with, a good retirement, it really was a good partnership. And, that's how I sort of evaluate it.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we're so happy to have you today, and we hope that you'll come back again and be part of what we're trying to do here to get a very strong message out that there is a support system. And we put together some questions that came up from different people when we were telling them about you being on the program. And I believe Morgan, our co-producer, is going to read. We have 2 questions for you there, and then we're going to get into the question of the month on suicide, how we go through the process of thoughts, the suicidal thoughts, and the suicidal attempts, and the suicidal completions. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things in that. So you're going to, hopefully you're going to come back and forth into our discussion as we move forward. Morgan, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Okay. Say hello to Colonel Wright.
Hi, Morgan.
Yes. Hi. Thank you so much, Colonel Wright, for being here today.
Tell her a little bit about you, Morgan. I mean, she's at ASU. Come on.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm a student at ASU, business entrepreneurship. So a little bit biased, but go Sun Devils. But I'm graduating in December. So with my graduation approaching relatively soon, I feel really lucky to just have you as guests today on Dr. Applewhite's program and learn about your experiences as I'm preparing to enter the workforce and in the field of reality. But as far as our questions go today, 'cause I think as we can tell from just what Dr. Applewhite was sharing, your insight is just really valuable to all of us. And even those not present on the board today are going to find your insight that you're sharing already really valuable as we promote this on different social media platforms as well. But first question that we have for you today is just regarding the educational institutions. So how can educational institutions, in your opinion, and employers better recruit as well as support and accommodate veterans with disabilities, especially the barriers women who have served are facing now?
Yeah, so it's funny, I tell you a story about the Phoenix PD. We were in there talking to them about, hiring veterans, and they were really afraid about disabilities, mental health disabilities, and they didn't know how to sort of navigate it. So we really talked them through, some of the questions to ask that are appropriate to try to assess for themselves, because law enforcement is a heavy, stressful kind of employment, and you don't want just anybody doing that kind of work, especially if they do have PTSD or some mental health struggle. Until they can kind of sort of get that under control, you don't want them coming into that kind of stressful employment. And so we really did sit with them and chat with them about, when you're assessing someone, what does that mean and how does that look? And really, transparency and honesty were the key. You can tell them, we can't hire you right now, and it's okay. And you can still say, it's because right now your assessment isn't showing us what it needs to show us. Go back to the VA or go to your mental health provider and try to get that back under control, and then come back to us.
Wonderful.
Right? Wonderful. You don't want to close any opportunities to anybody, but you want to be honest with them to explain that this kind of employment is very stressful, and we don't want to add to your already stressful life.
Absolutely. Do you find that most people, that stress is a major factor in just even suicidal thoughts?
Well, yeah, because, we talk about, did it matter if you're combat or not combat? And we found that it's really not related to combat as much as we think it is.
Yeah, right. I found that too.
And I also think that a lot of times they come with it, right? We have ACEs with it. So the adverse childhood experiences that they come with are exacerbated just by the stressful life in the military.
Absolutely.
Right. And so then it's a culmination of things that when you get out, you don't really know what to do with. Right. So, in my thought process is this, is that we have 100% of 22 million veterans who are out there. 80% of them are doing great. They got families, they're going to school, they're retired, they're living their life. We have 20% who are struggling.
Yes.
And so those are the ones we need to look out for. We've recently, at the state, between ASU, the Department of Health, Arizona Department of Health, and Be Connected, the Arizona Coalition for Military Families. Yes. We've been doing a veteran suicide mortality review. And what this does is it looks at medical examiner documents. And if we figure out that it's a veteran, every month we're reviewing 2 of those to kind of determine what was happening with them. So this is some of the things that we found. One is they're older, they live in rural areas, and they have access to firearms. So that's kind of that picture. The other thing was chronic pain.
Yes, we
Right?
found that too.
Generally,
Yes.
there's pain, and then when you add that to I lost a spouse or I lost my family, that really heightens that sort of suicidal ideation
Right.
for our veterans. And so, you know, when we were looking at these things, you know, oftentimes there was substance abuse because of the pain. Oftentimes we saw that there was no family support because the family just didn't know what to do. Not because they didn't care for the person, they just didn't know what to do. All these things were happening and they couldn't figure out what to do to support their individual. Sometimes they didn't even have family because the family had, because of drug abuse or whatever, they've just sort of abandoned them. And so all of these variables come together to bring somebody to suicidal ideation. And then when there's no support, especially if they've been to a hospital and there's no consistent aftercare.
Right.
Right.
Very
So, because you
critical.
have to have a continuum of care when you're dealing with
Yes.
these high risk individuals, then you really start to see the ideation move to actual action. I can't, no one's helping me. I have this pain. I'm, you know, smoking whatever, I'm drinking, I'm taking pills, and I've had enough of this. And then we have the action take place.
Yes. Yes.
So it's never just one thing, right, Dr. Applewhite?
Yes. 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 You know, it's just not one thing. There's multiple factors as you'll see as we move forward. Let's go to the next slide so we can talk a little bit about, I just want to break for a minute on this next slide and talk about how you can help us to continue moving forward with what we do. I had already mentioned that the donations that we get in help us with putting together the funds needed for different individuals. But it's so important that our audience understands that the reason why we do this is because so many people lose hope. And our purpose is to restore hope. So I hope that you help us to do that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Ask Dr. Applewhite. And then if you're interested in volunteering your time. So let's move on now to the next slide. And let's get into the meat of our discussion this month. You know, one of the things that's happening here is that people are just getting so confused about whether or not mental health disorders are responsible for suicidal ideations and murder. I mean, just recently, it just sickened me to my stomach, Colonel Wright. You might have heard about this guy, Carlos Brown. I hate to even say his name because I need to say the woman's name that he stabbed, Irina, who was from Ukraine. And they found he actually just didn't know her at all. She was sitting in front of him on a subway seat, and he just got up and started stabbing her. Now, they said that the reason why he did this possibly was because he had a violent criminal history and his previous diagnosis of schizophrenia. So it seems like every time that there seems to be something going on violent wise, they always, the news media seems to attach it to mental health issues, which makes it really hard. And I don't know if you've experienced this, makes it hard for me to talk to people who have depression or anxiety, because those are mental health disorders also. And should I talk about that openly so that people won't become afraid of me? Because look what this Fox News anchor said. I don't know if you can see the slide here.
I can see it.
But he actually said, his name was Brian Kilman, and he said that mentally ill homeless people should be killed by involuntary lethal injection. I can't even believe that somebody would say something like that in today's world. But we still have people who believe that people with any kind of disability should not be part of our society. And what do you think about what I just said about the mental health issue being so much associated with suicide and violence, especially with our military?
Yeah, so I mean there is a connection, but there's also a spectrum of mental health, right?
Okay.
Right. So
Okay.
you know, we have anxiety, we have depression, maybe at the lower ends, and maybe we're only in, say, orange, right? We're not in red. We're not getting to the point where we're so in despair, right? All the way up to being bipolar, schizophrenia, you know, some of the mental health disorders that really need support medically, like medicine wise, and provider wise, like psychologists and psychiatrists to really, you know, assess where they're at. And so we are all humans, right? We're all humans, and we decide for ourselves whether we're going to take our medication that was prescribed to us.
Right, right.
Or we decide ourselves that, maybe, my family doesn't care enough for me that I don't need to be in this world anymore. We decide for ourselves these things. And so, I don't think you can actually make a connection for everyone, but I do, especially for suicide, right? And that's why we talk about early intervention so much, because it's like, get them upstream before they get to the point that they're not taking their medication or they're just not willing to live anymore, to try to manage that so that they don't take their lives. Violent criminal activity, it's difficult. You don't want to have a causation, right? But there is. There is
a causation.
There's
got to be a causation.
That's right. And so, but for people to, and this is the ignorance sometimes that we have to deal with, to sort of cast everybody in the same light when we know there's a huge spectrum of mental health, is problematic, right? It's like saying all Black people are ignorant.
Yes.
Right?
Right. Because they meet one person that is.
That's right. That's right. So, I mean, that's what I would say about that, is that you need to treat each individual as an individual, figure out what's happening with them, get as much early intervention as you can, but there's still the human aspect of it, and we can't control that. People are people.
That's right. That's right. And I think that in my experience, over 40 years in the field, I find that a lot of people do feel that they're a burden to their family, that they don't want to be here anymore, that they don't have any friends. And sometimes they can have a plethora of friends, okay, and people that love them, but they don't recognize that. And that's what hurts so much. As we move on, I want to move on to the next slide here, Lori, if we can get Colonel Wright's opinion on that. Okay. You have that? Okay. Coming right up here.
Yeah, apologies for this. We're having a bit of technical difficulties with the
slides.
Yes,
I see that. That's okay.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone else is experiencing the coverage of the slides, but we're trying to brainstorm.
You can just read it to me.
Yeah, that's fine. Go to the next slide there, and I basically know what it says on the next slide there. Just go to the next one. There you go.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, see, because that's what I'm talking about here, the mental, the differently abled network exists, okay, in a large way, because on an average, we've got 30 plus veterans and higher education students that, I can't believe it, that die by suicide daily across our nation. And that's a pretty high figure, even though we're talking, as you mentioned earlier, only 20% of our veterans have these issues. It's still very, very serious that we have this high rate of death by suicide. And we say die by suicide now as a way to say someone doesn't commit suicide. That's the new language that's out there. I'll move to the next slide because I really want to emphasize this one even more. Okay. You see that little pink tab down there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can someone read that out loud for me? Because
Yeah, I'll read it.
Okay.
If suicide ever crosses your mind, just know I would rather listen to your story than attend your funeral.
Right. Yeah. That's deep, because most people don't want to listen. Okay. When we talk about, do you know someone who's talking suicide stuff? The first thing that comes across usually is why on earth would you think about that? Your life is doing so good, and don't take your life because God will get you for that. There's so many different things that come across that. And today, what I wanted to focus on more importantly was how, because we prepare people for the workforce. That's what I do for life. I love doing that, the vocational rehabilitation part of my work. And by preparing them for the workplace, there's this pressure that's automatically in the workplace. And then, of course, there's tremendous pressure in being unemployed. But let's talk for a minute about the workplace pressures that are out there now. And I don't know if you know a lot about this, because this is kind of new research that they're doing. Move to the next slide. Okay, but let's stay here for a minute and let's just talk about.
Yeah, so can I ask a quick?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I ask a quick question? So you had 30 people on your slide before, 2 slides ago.
Right.
You said 30 people. So the higher education students, are they veterans or all higher education students?
No, I separated. As a matter of fact, the last research I got on that was 1,100 students per year.
Okay.
And that was back 2022, 23.
Okay. Okay.
And that was just higher education students. I think that was University of Michigan study.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
So
it's a tremendous amount of numbers. I mean, when you think
about it is. Yeah. If it's 1,100 students overall, there's 16,000 or not 16,000, approximately over 6,000 every year. And it's been consistent pretty much year over year of veterans, right? And so, we're talking about almost 8,000 people just in those two buckets each year that are taking their lives. So I feel like workplace stress is not, I mean, you don't really know. Sometimes, people leave work when they're stressed. They have an opt out, right? So I don't know that someone would stay in their job and let that happen to them. I think it's many things that happen. They may be at a job that they hate. They also might have anxiety and depression. They might have lost somebody in their family.
Yes.
They might be older and have pain. So it's always, to me, a combination. We find that veterans, after 2 years, I think that's what the stat is. Maybe it might be after 1 year. 60% of them leave their job after their first job. 1 year later, they're out. And so I feel like people have options and take those options, it's at least on the veteran side, to move on if they don't like their job.
Now, when you go back to that 60% figure and accuracy or whatever, it's approximate. What do you think is the reason why they leave? They leave because they didn't know about the pressure on the job. They didn't know the expectations.
Well, it's all of that, right? So I leave the military. I don't really understand. I left high school and went right into the military. They told me everything I needed to do. I didn't have to write a resume. I didn't have to do an interview. And now I'm in a place where I have to do all these things and no one's taught me how.
Right.
So I will now take sort of the first job that's open to me, because transitioning costs money. So either they go into work and try to find the first work they can get, or they go into education. Right? Because the education, the GI Bill will pay some bills for you.
Right.
And so I think what happens is they go into these sort of lame jobs just to get that paycheck, because they might have a family and they want to make sure that they're taking care of their family, and realize this is not what I was looking for. Right. So they stay for a year or so, and then they hop over to something that might be more appropriate for them.
Because that's more balanced. That's more balanced. That's an emotional balance that they have also, and their mental health is usually pretty well balanced for them to make those decisions. So many people feel caught in an employment situation, or they can't quit because they have to put that bread on the table.
Yes.
Ruth, you had some comments on. Are you there, Ruth? You had some comments on this? No, you're not. I don't think you're on, dear. You might want to unmute yourself. I can come back to you. I can come back to you. Okay, Sharp, I see another person on. Did you have something that you wanted to say, that you wanted to add to? Because you're a civilian, even though you have a lot of support for veterans.
Ruth, your microphone now is unmuted, so if you'd like to share any.
I don't know where we are right now. I'm so sorry. Do we have a question?
Charlotte, what do you feel about suicidal, the workplace pressure and suicide? That's where we're at right now.
You're asking me?
Yes.
Yes. Well, the only thing I can say as a layperson or just a person that's out there is that I feel that it's greatly to do with a lack of support. And a lot of times the person will feel alone or even isolate and just be afraid to voice what's going on. And they're afraid to say anything at the job to anyone because they're afraid they'll get fired. So
Right.
it's like extreme pressure. That's the kinds of things that I went through as being just a regular person working in a job and facing some things. It was just hard to discuss and you didn't know who to go to.
Right. Right.
So
and so when we talk about it from a military perspective to a civilian perspective, Colonel Wright, one of the things that I've been trying to kind of like merge the thoughts together on is that when we talk about suicide, it's not really that different for a veteran than it is for a civilian. Many of the same problems exist. Do you agree?
I would dispute you on that.
Okay, come on.
Right. So the mental health issues that military people bring to the table are a lot different than civilians.
Talk about that for a minute.
Well, let's just talk about moral injury.
Okay.
I killed a child. I ran over a child with my tank. And how do you get over that? How do you wrestle with that? When a civilian doesn't have to wrestle with anything like that. Now, I'm not saying that they don't have stressors. I just don't think they're elevated like these military stressors. And the other thing is I shouldn't say this because I don't really have evidence to back it up, but I could probably find it.
That's okay.
Is that you know, everybody does experience stress and trauma and depression. But when it's exacerbated, I think, on the military side because of these issues. And so, you know, I am a military person. I fought in combat. I saw all of these things. I cannot reconcile them. I am a civilian, and perhaps I was raped as a child. Right?
You're right.
Yeah, right. That's still stress and trauma. But and of course, you know, I don't know if it's 20% of the civilian population or not, but we know in the military side, this is what we're dealing with. Right. And so I think that, at least in my opinion, that's why rates are so much higher for unemployment, for homelessness, because we have all of these other things that are causing us trauma as veterans.
And I agree with you that there's definitely distinctions between the two. What I was really trying to get to is that base layer of the lack of emotional support, the fact that many times it's about losing a spouse, many times it's about what we just talked about, workplace pressure. Definitely unemployment plays a big part, especially in today's world, because we are dealing with a lot of layoffs now, a lot of layoffs. And so that's why it was real important to kind of like do this to stimulate thought and discussion among us. But I understand what you're saying. I just want to make sure that the veteran knows that we as veterans were civilians before we were veterans. Okay. Now you've been in the veteran population for a long time.
Yeah.
But for many of us who have not, we come back to the civilian life, and we still have to deal with the civilian issues. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but you're still a
putting food
veteran
on the table.
But you're still a veteran.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. You're a veteran and a civilian.
You're not a civilian, though, in my mind, right?
Oh,
when we're comparing, right? You served your country, and therefore things happen to you in that service of your country that don't happen to civilians, true civilians, right? So that's my
Right.
point, is that, yes, you're right. We do come back, we become civilians ultimately. Some get to it quicker, some take longer like me. But I would really like to also say that it's sort of a forced trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because we go into something and we have no idea what's going to happen. War springs up, and now I'm dealing with these things that I had no idea I was going to have to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And
Keep going with that, please. I
yeah,
dropped something. Keep going.
Okay.
Morgan,
And I feel like
the
the debate about it is really around.
She's outside. Can you get for me the plug for the computer? It's out.
There we go.
You plug it. Would you get the plug for the computer?
I can still, there we go. Okay, so when I look at it from my lens of being the director of Veteran Services, right, I really see that these high rates, especially for women veterans, right? We brought up women veterans there for a minute. Is that, when you look at my counterpart woman civilian, there's no comparison to the rates of unemployment, homelessness, sexual assault. It's like 5 times the amount.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. And so it isn't the same.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it though as for a veteran that's maybe coming out of service, right? I agree with you on they're not a civilian, at least now in their mindset, but are they having to adapt to the lifestyle now of a common citizen? Like, and now they're having to deal with veteran mental pressures and PTSD and trauma from their service. And on top of adapting as a civilian now. Like I look at it as almost both in a way. I don't know. But
Yeah,
interesting.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Morgan, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
So transition. So let's talk about that just a little bit, right? Transition is very difficult for people, right?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. What civilian goes through transition like that? Now they do go through transitions, right? You leave your home and you go to college, or you leave somewhere and you get married. So those are transitions. You move across the country. Those are transitions. But like I was saying before, we leave high school, some of us, we go in and we're told what to do for, 4 to 20 years. And then we transition out and we come out into this alien world that causes a lot of stress.
Yes.
Right? A lot of stress. And so, yes, you're right. We're transitioning into the civilian world, but we are not civilians. And I'll debate you on that all day long because we have an experience.
And you know what? I'm looking forward to that.
I think that's a really
maybe it's the length of time you're into. It could be
yes, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like entering a new world now as you're not a civilian. I agree with that. I mean, I see that take. I find it very interesting. But the transition in itself, that is a shock factor, I feel. I mean, like that's completely different lives that you're living. Like,
and so if you're transitioning and you also have mental health struggles, right, then we start to see real significant issues popping up with our veteran population. And that's where homelessness comes in, right? And drug abuse and those kinds of things, because I cannot cope with this transition. I am not a civilian because I did all these things back in the world, right? In the military. And now I'm trying to adapt to this thing that I am very confused about. And so at least that's my thought on it. We see that we see the data on it, and it is not good, right? We have 6,000, and that includes active duty across about every year that die by suicide.
That transition in itself, I feel, is a disastrous recipe. And obviously in this case, as we're talking about it often equals end of life taken by oneself. So it's very interesting. Oh, I'm being called right now. Hopefully.
Dr. Jane's got her hand up.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Some technical problems.
Oh,
I was going to say hi, everybody.
Hello, Dr. Jane.
How are you doing? How is everybody doing?
Hi, sorry about that.
Yeah. You know what I was going to add to our conversation? I think we also have to take into account the stage of development,
Yeah.
you know, that the person is. So
Right.
let's
Right.
say I'm an individual that entered the military at 17, 18, 19. It's like I'm leaving my parents' house to go to somebody else's house, right? And in that process, I did not get the opportunity to really find my own sense of self. Because now I enter into an organization that doesn't give latitude for me to even learn how to think for myself. We don't get that in the military. You are told what to think, where you're going to go, and stuff like that. And so those cognitive skills that an individual should be developing, you know, in their early 20s and so forth, they're not getting that. And so as they're in the military now, they exit, they don't have those skills.
Right. And I would add to that, Dr. Jane, before you got here, we talked about adverse childhood experiences,
Yes.
right? And so, you're going in and you already might have and bring into the military some of these traumas, right? And then so now you can't, and a lot of times they don't speak it out loud, right? So now we're dealing with that, plus we're dealing with moving into the military as a new experience and not being able to develop your own identity. And you go through 4 to 20 years, and then you pop out at the other end, not any better than you started when you were 17.
Yes.
Especially if you have to return to the same, Dr. Jane and I talk about this a lot, where the women that we work with, many of them are returning to an environment that they were in before. So if they were in a drug infested home, if they were in, and where most people, okay, and I don't know if you agree with this, Colonel Wright, but a lot of people join the military because they're trying to get away from a situation, okay? And so if they're out of the military, and especially if they haven't spent that much time in the military, now they're going back into that environment again. And that makes, and whatever trauma that they've suffered, that's going to be prevalent in their life. One of the things that happens to me a lot, and this is a new thing that I'm beginning to open up and talk about, is that my own PTSD is usually, when people know that I've been in the military, they automatically assume that it's because of combat related experiences, where mine is from childhood sexual trauma, you see. So the factor that PTSD in itself is always associated with veterans tells me that we're merging too much under the veteran hat without recognizing that they are human beings. And I guess that's really the bottom line in what I'm saying, is that we're all human beings and we're all going to suffer many of the same things, especially depending on the environment that we're from. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. You're right. We're all humans. Who knows what trauma lies behind our eyes? And you just want to be kind to that, right? You want to be kind to that. And knowing what you said about students, that there's about 1,100, students a year that die by suicide. And then when you think about the population of students compared to the population of military, there's many more students than there are military. I think we have 1.3 million military people around at any one time. ASU alone has almost 200,000.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
And so when you look at the percentage, you can still see that the military has higher rates of things, even than those students the data you brought up. And there's a reason why for that.
Okay.
Right. And that reason why is that military experience that they had, and maybe they're exacerbated by the ACEs that they may have had coming in.
And let's not forget vulnerability.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The
I was just
yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry. Sorry,
no,
Dr.
that's okay.
I don't mean to keep it.
Oh,
but you're right. So I think about it. I went to this it was a dinner for our ROTC, young ladies ROTC. It was an organization, it's not coming to my mind, but it was about women, and it was international. So I'm talking to these junior ROTC ladies and, talking about their lives. And all of them said, you know, we didn't have fathers in our lives. And their plan was at 18 to go into the military. And they were honest with me about, you know, my dad left or whatever happened. And my instant brain thought was the authority figure in their life was gone. When they get into the military, the authority of those people can now take advantage of these sweet young girls who are looking for that in the military. Right? And so I just—
Don't get Dr. Jane started.
Yeah. So I just sat with them and I said, listen, you know, I don't want to alarm you or anything, but I just want you to be aware, right, that people will try to take advantage of you. Yes. Try not to let them. There'll be people in power. They'll be try to figure out the system that can help you so that they cannot take advantage of you, so that the military doesn't damage you in any way.
And in addition to that, and I'm going to just put a little bit of a cream on top of that and say, if that's the right word to say, the corporate America, we face the same things in many ways. Okay, is that that's executive that comes in with the power to overcome people. We are going to move forward because we're squeezed a little bit on time. And Dr. Jane, I wanted to have time with you for especially on the MST issue and the factor of the vulnerability of many women when they go into service, and how sexual trauma leads to a lot of, because we're having an increase in women veteran suicide, actually, Colonel Wright. I don't know if you were aware of that.
Yes.
And so, you know I wanted to focus a lot on workplace, and I'm probably going to have to do a part 2 on this because the World Health Association has already said that a third of the people that they have that come into the workforce are usually subjected in some way to suicidal thoughts. And most importantly, I think with that research, with that projection that they made, is that that when one person dies by suicide, another 10 or 20 people are affected.
Yeah.
Okay. But Dr. Jane, I wanted you to elaborate just a little bit, if you don't mind, on the MST issue and the association with suicide, if you have any if you have any research or just your own personal opinion.
Unfortunately, Dr. Jane left the meeting.
Oh,
I don't know what occurred, but we can certainly leave this discussion.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna have a part. We've got to have a part 2 on this because this is too good. Yeah. I go ahead and move to the next slide there.
There's a Rosalind who's had her hand up for a while.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Rosalind, please.
Okay, Rosalind? So I put the question in the chat.
Okay, and I'm sorry, we had some technical problems, so I had to move from my computer.
That's okay, because I'm outside with my laptop right now, so you might hear background now. So I'm going to say this real loud and quill. So, veterans and homeless often interact by being part of both communities. So can drug use and needing to be Narcan be viewed as a suicide attempt of a person?
Yes and no. I mean, I think it depends.
Go ahead, Colonel Wright, you answer.
Yeah, I you know, because we do have suicide. Well, we have suicide by law enforcement, right? We have suicide by drug use, but there are variables that come along with both of those, right? That they're pushed to some sort of limit, and they're not wanting to take a firearm or something and do it themselves. They let something else take care of it for them. And I'm not an expert on this, but just doing that veteran suicide mortality rate, we saw a couple, especially that died by police, because they were fired upon because they came out guns a-blazing, and they knew what was going to happen to them when they did that. And so it could be, I'll just say that it really depends.
Okay.
So we've established that work stress is a major factor. We've established that there's pre-existing vulnerability, so to speak. We've established that some of the problems that veterans go through and civilians may be common, maybe shared. But as Colonel Wright was bringing out, there's still some stressful stuff that goes on in the military that can't be addressed necessarily as a civilian. Did I recap that?
Yep.
Pretty good. Okay.
Sounds good.
Next slide. Okay. So asking whether or not your workplace causes stress is a very, very big part of whether or not it contributes to your thoughts, your attempts, and the actual act of dying by suicide. I'm going to say that the most fundamental question that I run into a lot when I'm dealing with the families of students that have passed on is always the why. Always the why. Nobody knows the why because only that individual knows the why. But I encourage you, if you are someone who is dealing with thoughts, okay, in any way, even if it's, I don't want to live anymore, okay, because I don't feel that people love me or care about me, please, I encourage you to please give us a call, but more importantly, to call 988. 988 is the fabulous number. It gets you in touch with resources in your community, and they will help you to, as Lori puts up here, bang your head here and then go back to work. Okay. All right. I think that was a great statement there. And I just wanted people to know that it's real important that you control your stress level. And there's so many different things that go on with stress that it's incredible that we can talk about. But basically remember that it does raise your high blood pressure. Okay, there's sleeping difficulties, all kinds of things can happen when you allow stress to take over on your life. So that's the first thing I want you to remember. If you take anything away from here and what Colonel Wright and Dr. Jane and I are talking about today, and we have some other special things that are going to happen in just a minute, but we're going to move on to the next slide here, Lori. I want Colonel Wright to kind of like jump in, and Dr. Jane, if she is available, to jump in on this. One of the key warning signs, now you can get this from the internet, okay? But I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on, again, the merger between looking at the veteran and looking at the civilian on the key warning signs of talking about that desire to die. And jump in as you will, Colonel Wright, on any of these. The behavior is usually withdrawal, okay? Increased alcohol and drug use. So watch out for that. Watch out for that with yourself, in addition to anyone in your family that you're concerned about. Giving away prized possessions. Mood, I've seen a lot of this happen. The mood change happen, and a lot of people talk about the mood change happen. But where I was concerned about is the sense of calm that I've seen with a few people that I've worked with, and gone into a work or school environment and find out that they died by suicide a couple of nights before, over the weekend. And that's because they had a calmness that came over them, where they were basically had made up their mind that they were going to take themselves out. Okay. So what you can do for another person is ask the question. And this is the hard one to ask, Colonel Wright, is, are you thinking about suicide? Because most of the time people will turn around and say, no, I'm not. You know what I mean? But we need to listen to them. We need to listen to them without judgment. We need to listen to them without saying things like, things could be worse for you. Or the very common thing is selfish. That's very selfish of you to leave. Those are the things we don't want to say. And we want to show empathy. We want to validate their pain. And I say something like, I can't imagine how painful this is for you. Okay. So anything that you want to add on to that, anybody else can jump in on this one too, because this is real important that we look at these signs.
I just say ask the question is really hard for people, right? It's not so much the answer. I feel like the one who's asking this, one, maybe doesn't want to hear the answer, but two, they might feel like they're insulting the person or some negative, aspect of it. But I say, don't worry about that, right? Don't worry about that. Just ask it.
Right.
Ask it, come out and say it, be as transparent as possible. And the best thing they can say is no, if it's truthful, the worst thing they can say is yes, and then you move on to tell me about this, or talk me through what's happening with you. Just like you say, listen, right? And then empathize. And then I would say the next step is we need to go see someone. Right?
Yes,
Because most people
absolutely.
they aren't capable of kind of managing this alone, right? And so if you're a family member or you're somewhere out there, that's why I love Be Connected so much, because you can pick up the phone and call them and say, I have a, well, one, if they're in crisis, you want to call 988 and then hit 1. But if they're not quite in crisis, but they're talking about it, you can call and say, we have a situation here. Where can I take my person? Impact, Teros, one of those organizations in behavioral health, so that we can get them to somewhere, or the VA, I should say VA first, actually, and get them somewhere where experts can help.
That's right. That's right. And that becomes a challenge. Moving to the next slide, that becomes a challenge with costs for counseling and all of those things. But I wanted to just interject a little bit more on this, and we're not going to get a chance to get into unemployment as much as I wanted to, but how much does, when someone calls 988 or even Be Connected, which is one that we refer a lot of people to Be Connected, the immediate things that need to be done is what the Differently Abled Network does. And that's what restores the hope. That's been my research, okay, is that sometimes it's that person has had such a struggle to juggle school and work, family, and raising kids and all of that, and still trying to go to ASU and any of the colleges, not just ASU. And they run into those difficulties. The programs that we're talking about can't intervene right away. And what we try to do with the Differently Abled Network is to be part of that person's life immediately, to get them to that test or to that exam. So I want everyone to remember, and we're trying to build, my dream is to build chapters all over the place where that can happen, because there's so many good people that are struggling so hard, and they get to that 3rd year. And I don't know if you can elaborate a little bit on that, Colonel Wright. They get to that 3rd year and they start dropping out.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that as clearly as I would like, but this has sort of been my experience, is that most veterans come in and they already have 2 years of college done. They've taken credits, they've done all those things. And so then they're kind of trying to figure out, what am I going to do? I have all these credits, I can use them as electives, but what is the real degree I want to get? And I go back to sort of, that transition period. And so getting that first job, sometimes it also means going to the first college or getting into the first degree that you think might work for you. And we find out it doesn't. And so now I'm stuck in being a communications leader, and I hate it. I don't like being in front of people. I don't like public speaking. And I really would rather be sports medicine, right? And so that could be a reason why they drop out, because they've wasted their VA GI Bill, and now I don't have the money to move over and complete. And so that's been what my experience has been in trying to support students and trying to make sure they graduate with persistence, to keeping them persistent. Because either you run out of your GI Bill, or you're in the wrong major, or something happens like that, and all of a sudden you've dropped out now because you don't know what to do next.
So some of the things that I'm talking about that we do with the Differently Abled Network, from your experience, the veterans that you deal with at ASU at that level, you don't really hear too much about, hey, I couldn't get to class, or I couldn't get to that exam because I didn't have the money for the exam, or I didn't have childcare. You don't really hear that much, do you?
I do not. I do not. But that doesn't mean it's not happening.
Oh, definitely it's happening.
Right. I said we have 22,000 military affiliated students. So that includes dependents, so spouses and children, active duty, reserve, guard, and veterans.
Right.
And they're spread all over the world.
Right.
So sometimes the communication isn't good enough to really get all this stuff consolidated so that we hear about it.
I think we froze. Okay. Yeah, I think we froze a little.
So sometimes they're so dispersed, we don't really have a central place. The Pat Tillman Center helps a lot, right? But it's just hard to get a central place where everybody can tell us all of the needs that they have, especially online students.
I appreciate you saying that, because if anything that we're trying to do with this differently abled network is to have it as a central place where you can say, if you do run into anybody with these problems, that I know that there is a community that can help you on an immediate basis, because we're talking about immediacy.
Right,
okay?
right.
Okay, and we're also talking about many social service agencies that won't even service students because they're students.
Right.
A full-time student, you don't get these benefits. And also if you're working. So, you know, but they don't understand that it may be a budget issue. There might be a lot of different things going on. The first person that we worked with the Differently Abled Network was a nursing student who needed $63 lousy to keep her lights on. Unfortunately, her husband had left, took the car, took the money out of the bank, and went away with another woman. And so in order for her to get this $63, and they had children, she couldn't go to a library and work, which a lot of people say, go to a library, you know, how could she do that late at night? So a bunch of us professors got together, and we built a fund in order to help many of our students. This was out at Gateway College. And so that's kind of like the idea of what we're trying to do with the Differently Abled Network. And that goes for those of you who are in an unemployment setting, okay? The numbers are high and getting higher as you guys go through the unemployment journey. Would you go ahead and change that slide now, Lori? As we come to our closure here for our program today. And we're going to go a little bit over because the treat that we have for you is so very important. Go ahead and move over that. Dr. Jane had something that she had to take care of. Seems like there a little some technical problems are happening today, but that's okay. We learn how to move through them. Definitely if we've been in the military. Okay. All right. Go ahead to the next slide. Okay. Let's talk about solutions that you can share with your employer, and solutions you can share with other people, that employers encourage your employer to promote healthy work environments and to establish some stress management resources. And that would be real important. And if you have any questions, please feel free to call us at 888-56-APPLE, 888-562-7753. Or you can always write us at whiteappleinstitute.org. Okay, don't forget that. Don't let this show or this program go without you taking it to heart, that if you're not going through this, you can help somebody else who is. Okay, so let's move on to our next slide, and let me introduce, and you're going to be really thrilled at what we have here, Colonel Wright. We're going to introduce what we do at the end of every program. It's because we talk about such heavy stuff. We're going to go ahead and skip over that because I'll bring that up in a minute. We skip over such heavy stuff that we have to prepare people sometimes for some joy at the end of our conversations, okay? And so as much as I would like to go through all of the different things that we can do, especially for people who are unemployed at this point, I just want to tell you, take care of yourselves, take care of your mental health, more importantly, and don't be afraid to ask. Okay, and don't be afraid to find joy and restore your hope. And that's what we're going to talk about. Why did we do the differently abled artists and musicians at the end of every program, Lori?
Well, it's all a part of taking care of yourself, because we can get so caught up in the minutia of life and the big things and little things and the school and the homework and the work and the kids and the money and the car and the house and everything. And we keep thinking, well, we'll get around to doing something for ourselves here one day, but then we don't. And if we don't, we can't take care of those other things unless we're nourishing and feeding our own souls with what we're passionate about. It's going to be very hard to do those other things. So even if it's, you don't have to be an artist like the lady we have that we're going to speak with in a moment. You don't have to be a singer like the lady we're going to speak with in a moment. You don't have to be a great talent. It's just do what feels good to you. If you like to draw, or you like to get a coloring book, dance in your living room and put on some music, or, if you play an instrument, take 5 minutes. You don't have to lay out 45 minutes or an hour to do something perfectly. It's just give yourself a
So
little
important, isn't
bit
it, Lori?
of
So
joy.
important. Yeah.
A little bit of joy and a little bit of freedom in your life. And the other stuff will wait a few minutes while you take care of you. So that's why this is so important to us. And I'm really happy to introduce today Ruth Alexander, who's an artist and a singer and a very multi-talented lady. And I will pass this on to Dr. Apple and Ruth.
Well, I try to think of her as a singer, but after I heard her voice, I can understand why she talks about herself as an opera singer. Okay. Because what a beautiful voice she has. And I think she has brought something today for us to close out our program with from the music side. But I also wanted to talk to her about, she has her own disability issues that she works with, and that's up to her if she wants to divulge some of that. But I want you to understand how she works on overcoming pain and how she uses art and music to do that and to restore her hope. So Ruth, tell us a little bit about yourself. We've got a few minutes here. We're going to go over a little bit, but hey, that's life, right? We're not podcasting.
Yeah. Yes, I won't take too long. And I know we're talking about such a heavy subject, but I have to make a comment before I go into the art. It was something I wanted to say just as a regular what do you call, veteran. I wanted to say something. When I talk to people, because most of my life, I was a suicidal person because I was brought up in a very bad way. So what I wanted to say was this. A lot of times when I speak to people, what is it that can help them, that I feel can help them? What it is they want to be heard. They want to be heard. They need someone to listen to them.
Yes.
And then the most important thing is that they have to know that they are not alone. They feel that they are alone, that they're the only ones in the world who are feeling like that, and they feel hopeless. So it's up to the individual talking to them, whether it's a hug, whether it's a referral, whether it's to talk to them about getting help. You have that opportunity to intervene and do what you can. We can't save everyone, but we can certainly try. And I just want to say that without getting all back into anything heavy again. I just wanted to say that.
Well, thank
And
you.
now you're welcome.
Tell us about why you use art and what that does for you as far as the paintings are concerned.
When I paint, I go into what they call the zone. There are certain things that people do, whether it's crocheting, whether it's whittling wood, whatever it could be. It doesn't just have to be painting. You don't have to be highly educated. You can pick up a coloring book and just color something. What it does is it takes your mind off of your problems. It takes you away. And when it's really something that you enjoy, you feel invigorated. You feel new energy. You feel like, well, maybe things aren't so bad after all. It just automatically lifts your spirits up out of the darkness. I'm talking about painting because I'm an artist and I'm a singer. But I know someone, it helps them just to get up every morning and go outside and take a walk. So that's what they do. It's something, but the art, there's something about doing art. You don't have to be skilled. You can just sit down and start drawing whatever it is. If you want to sit there and draw a glass, you might want to put a rainbow, green, red, yellow, whatever it is you do. But that art takes you to another place. It takes you away from your problems. Yes, it does.
Yes. And is that what it's done for you?
Yes, it has. I was an artist before I went to a program. It was called Art Awakening at that time. And it's now called Resilient Health. Yes, it does use art therapy to help people. Now, I went there and I'm going to tell you that that program saved my life. Yes, I was already an artist, but I was isolating and I was painting at home. And when I got there, it gave me somewhere to go. It gave me some other people who I could speak to who were experiencing similar things. So I got to talk and meet new people. I was an isolator, so I had very few friends when I started going to Art Awakening. And I know that for everyone, maybe they don't have such a program available to them. So they can just pick up whatever it is that they do, and they can just do a little bit at a time just to get away from the things that are just plaguing them.
Let me ask you something. We've kind of touched on it a little bit in our previous conversations. When people don't want to go to counseling.
Yes.
Okay.
I understand.
Explain that a little bit to us. Why is that so prevalent?
It took me a very long time, and I'll say many long years before I sought counseling, because I really did not feel that that would help me. I didn't have faith. I didn't even know what psychiatrists do. The media just shows the psychiatrist sitting on just watching you talk, and then they say, oh, your hour is up. So a lot of times you don't even really get what you need because you don't really feel that the psychiatrist is there for you, that it's just a job for them. They're getting paid for the hour, and when you leave, you're right back where you started. That's one of the reasons that I like this program. I'm just learning about it. I just joined it because it offers practical information that can help people. Practical information. What's the matter? Well, I can't get a job. Practical information. Here's some resources. Well, I got the job and I have no shoes. What can I do? Practical information from this place, APPLEwhite. I just joined it, so forgive me if I don't know all the names. But I feel that this not only offers talk, but offers resources and a place to go to meet people wherever they're at. And that's what I feel is valuable with this program, is that it meets people where they are and it helps them with whatever their situation is.
And let me elaborate just a little bit so that we don't tear anybody away from the possibility of it being a great experience, because many people have had great experience as a retired education psychologist. I'm going to say that I think that I've helped people, but maybe the method that I use is a little different. But there are great stories, great success stories, as you know, Ruth. But we do encourage people that if they cannot find the resources that they need, to please go to 988, and they will connect you to counseling resources in your community. Okay. And if the counseling program doesn't work out, would you at least give yourself an opportunity to call us and let us explain a little bit about how it can be a little easier for you? Okay. That might help.
And I want to say that psychiatrist did help me. How did I find out about Art Awakening? I was looking at a painting on the wall as we were talking. I finally got the courage to go and talk to someone. And I was looking at a painting. I said, that's beautiful. Where did you get that? And she said that came from the place that helps people with art therapy, Art Awakening. Voila, long story short, that's where I joined. And yes, it did help me. Yes, it did prevent me from committing suicide. When I went there, I was suicidal 24 hours a day. It's just a knocking on you. What are you doing here? You're all alone. No one loves you. I know we don't have time to go into it, but I can tell you those kind of thoughts that you're thinking, your brain is saying, no one cares about you. No one's going to miss you. You will be missed. You have to get hope. This place restores hope. You have to do your best and try to learn how to live for something, whatever it is. Just to get up in the morning, go for that walk and see the sunshine. It's the beginning.
Yes. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
And before we get into, are you going to share your song today with us?
Yes, if she would put the song on, it's Over the
Okay.
Rainbow, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I love The Wizard of Oz. And I love Over the Rainbow because it expresses how somewhere, someday, basically, the thought is that you're going to find your path. And over the rainbow, somewhere over there, there's a place where dreams come true.
Wow.
And you
Wow.
can reach that place in many ways, in art, in music, even if you don't draw or paint, you can enjoy looking at art. If you're not a singer, you don't play an instrument, you can enjoy it and you can be a music appreciation person who listens to music to uplift you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Very
Yes.
good.
And
Before we close into your, I'm sorry, did you have something else you wanted to add to that?
no, I was just going to say, go ahead and put the song on if you
Okay,
like, and we
before
can
put
look
the
at
song
our
on,
paintings. We can look at our paintings another time on the next podcast,
oh, we're
if you
looking at it
wish.
right now. I hope everybody is seeing
Oh,
what it does here.
oh, okay. I don't see
All right.
them because I've been out of the loop for a while, but I know what they look like already.
Yes,
So
that's
I'm
true.
having
That's
a
true,
little,
you do.
I'm having a
This
little
night-
tech thing here right now. I'm trying to
That's okay.
find them.
That's all right. What I wanted to do before we get into listening to your song is to,
Okay.
because we're running out of time here. We've
Yes.
already run out of time, but it's okay.
Yes. Yes.
I wanted to ask whether or not there were any specific questions that maybe we could have answered that we didn't get to, any thoughts that you want to share in closure today. Okay. We have some really, as a matter of fact, we have an independent living counselor online. I think that's Shar. Okay. Anything that you want to say in closure and bringing this together, please jump in. I don't think Dr. Jane is on here right now. Okay. Morgan, do you have anything that you wanted to say?
I think we covered. Yeah, not at the moment. But
okay.
You all have certainly given me more to think about.
Great, great. I'm glad to hear that. Colonel Wright, has this been a little bit exciting for you just to see the format of what we're trying to do here?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's just to see it's lovely to see all these great women all in one place. And, and I appreciate the conversation. It reminds me of how much I really do know about suicide prevention and trying to sort of manage this for our community.
Right. And we hope to have you back again. Can I get your commitment on air?
Sure.
All right. Okay, let's listen to what Ruth Alexander from Massachusetts has to share with us today as we close our Differently Abled Network meeting and the Ask.
Way up high, there's a land that I've heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. One day I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, I know I can fly.
Wow. 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 Incredible
Thank
voice.
you for
Incredible
listening.
voice.
Thank you.
And like you said, everybody can't do that, but we can do a little bit of something and even put on the music and hear it. That's so fantastic. Don't forget, if you look on the website, you'll see November 15th, we're having a fantastic pinup contest. That's the theme of the Miss White Apple pinup contest, sponsored by Arizona Car Show Babes, is about changing the perception of how we look at the word disabled. And when you hear the word disabled or somebody's describing somebody that's disabled, think of them as productive, successful, and beautiful. As you see the models that are at the on the flyer there, they will we'll have a lot of models there that will be talking about their life and how they've overcome disabilities, and it'll be a fantastic show. So if you can't make it, if you're not in Arizona, please make sure you send a donation in to us, because this money does go specifically to help our program Place Your Bets on Our Women Vets, which is a program, Colonel Wright, that was the first program I introduced to you, as a matter of fact, when I was giving my first presentation back years ago, over 10 years ago, I think now. And so we're still trying to get that off the ground. So we hope that donations will come in. Thank you so much for joining us today at the Differently Abled Network meeting, and contact us at White Apple Institute. And I am Dr. Applewhite, and I thank you. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Did we stop recording?
Oh,
I got it.